Just like last year, I want to start the year with the gear that I start the year with. I flipped a lot of gear this year, especially guitars and amps, and I will get into that, but I will divide everything into two sections for the two bands I'm playing with at the moment. One will be the gear that I use with Nighthawker, and the other one will be the gear that I use with a new band. I think we actually have a name, but I'm not sure if it will actually be the final name, so I will just name it the unnamed band for now. And I've got some miscellaneous stuff that I can use with both bands, or that's not band specific. So let's start off with the Nighthawker gear. So first up is my Gibson Les Paul 60 Standard. This was actually my second one I bought in 2022. The first one I bought in 2020, and this was actually meant to be a backup, but they were so similar. They were both lightweight. This one is 4.1 kilos, maybe a bit less. I actually almost sold this one in 2023 because it was so similar to my other one, but the other one maybe looked a bit better. But eventually I decided to do some upgrades, so I changed the electronics to already custom wiring and pots. I changed the pickups to Wiz pickups. I changed the hardware to Faber hardware, so the tuners, the bridge and the tailpiece, and it made the guitar so much better. I actually sold the other one this year, and the reason I sold the other one is bound to the story of the next guitar. Last summer I was looking for something different yet also familiar, and while browsing the summer sale that the Fellowship of Acoustics was having, that's a Dutch guitar store which is awesome by the way, I saw this guitar and it caught my eye right away. I said it in the video I made of this guitar, the looks are love it or hate it I guess, but I love it, it's really my thing. The pinstriping, the amalgamation of a Gibson Les Paul with a bit of SG sprinkled in there because you can actually reach the higher notes. And that's also one of the reasons I went for this guitar, because usually with Nighthawker I was using my Les Paul, but for some songs I have to get higher up there, and I was using my backup guitar at that time, which was the SG, which I will also show you in a minute. But I can do it all with this guitar. But when I saw it, it caught my eye right away because the looks, I really love the looks, it's really me. The specs, how the neck shape was described, and I just thought I have to try this. And once I tried, I fell in love with it right away. The only thing I didn't love right away were the pickups. It had Seymour Duncan pearly gates, and I have nothing against them, but it's a very particular tone, which I wasn't going for. So I put Seymour Duncan Antiquities in here, and the rest of it is all original. Besides the strap pins, it had strap locks, and I'm not sure if I like it or not, but on these guitars I just like to use my Gretsch caps. I'm Dutch after all. Or at least half Dutch. And yeah, this guitar is really cool. It has since become my main guitar for Nighthawker. It just plays really well. It's very dynamic and responsive, and especially in a live context, this guitar just really works. It's difficult to explain because I think the Les Paul might be the better recording guitar, but this guitar for playing live is just really awesome, how it responds and how bell-like it is, even on the neck pickup. I never had a neck pickup that sounded this good with a humbucker, and yeah, I really love this guitar, and I think you're gonna see this a lot. So this is my SG that I got 2 years ago, and I still really love it. The only thing I had some issues with the last year is that the pickup sounded a bit muffled and nasally, especially when I did a comparison between my humbucker guitars. It was really noticeable, so I tweaked a bit with the pickups, and I think it's better now. But I will keep trying, and if I don't like it, I'm maybe gonna swap the pickups. But besides that, it plays really great. I've got the vibrola blocked, so that isn't an issue, but I think it looks cooler with it, and the balance is better with it. And yeah, this was mainly my backup guitar when playing with Nighthawker, and I use it for some songs where I need to get higher up. But with the new Wild Custom Baroness I just showed you, that has become a bit redundant, but this guitar cannot be redundant for me. So I figured I wasn't happy with my open tuning guitars, which I will come to next. So I decided to use this in open tuning, or try this in open tuning. And once I tried, I really liked it. So it has a purpose again, and it will be used a lot more, I think, than before. I wasn't happy with my Telecaster for open tuning anymore. The Telecaster Custom I had, the black one. I recently sold it along with the Squier backup I had of it. It just wasn't working for me anymore. It always sounded like I had my wah pedal on when using it, and I don't know why. But once I tried this, I thought this is a better solution, and it makes me play this guitar more. so it's a win-win. But selling those two guitars also opened the door to getting a new guitar, because I cannot only have one guitar for open tuning, I at least need to have two. I thought about getting a second SG as a backup to this one now that I'm using it in open tuning. But the problem with that always is that I always like one better than the other. That's also the reason that I sold one of my Les Pauls. I forgot to mention that with the Baroness. Once I got the Baroness guitar, I sold one of my Les Pauls because I don't need two Les Pauls and a different guitar that's similar to a Les Paul, and I needed to make some money back from the money I spent on that Baroness. And I wanted to try something different as a second open tuning guitar, maybe a bit of a stunt guitar. I tried a few things, but one of the things I tried actually stuck, and that's the next guitar. So in the spirit of trying something different, I got this Baum Backwing. I've been seeing them for the last few years. I always thought they were a bit expensive just to try something. But during Black Friday, they had a Black Friday sale. This was also a B-stock, and I had a coupon code. So I thought, why not? It's something different, and the price seemed good for what I could get it for. It still has the plastic on it. I still have to get it off, but it's also under the knobs, which is always really annoying, and I didn't want to bother with that. I actually wanted to play it. I already recorded a video with this guitar, which will be out in a couple of weeks or months. And it actually works really well for open tuning. I think from all the guitars I owned the last couple of years, nothing has held tune as well as this one without me doing anything. So I tune it down to open D flat, and it's kept in tune for days. And I think it's still in tune now. But more on that guitar later. Now, I really tried a lot of amps this year, and I will not cover everything because a lot of those amps were here only for a short time. They went back to the store via a return policy, or I quickly sold them on again. The only one that I've had for a longer time that I sold this year was the Studio Vintage by Marshall, and the reason is simply because I like the bigger ones better. I've had the 1987X for a few years now, and it's kind of my benchmark amp, at least for what I'm doing with this band. And I've always wanted to try the hand-wired 100-watt version, and I've got it right there. I made 2 videos of this. It will be there also this year, very shortly, and I'm glad I finally got one. I don't think it's better per se than the 1987X, but they're different and they both fill a role, and I'm actually happy to own both. I also still have the 1960 TV cab, and if I'm planning to bring one of these big Marshalls to a smaller show, I got the 2x12 cabinet that's made by Harley Benton. I got the logo off there simply because I don't like the look of the logo. I'm not ashamed to play Harley Benton, but I made it a bit more my own. It's got 2 cream bags in it, a closed bag, and it's convenient to bring my Marshalls to smaller shows. I got my Gibson Les Paul Jr., if I remember correctly, in the spring of 2023, and ever since I got it, I really have loved this guitar. I changed the bridge to a compensated brass ABM bridge. I changed the pickguard and the knobs. That's just something visually that makes it more me or my guitar. And the rest of it is stock. I really love this guitar. It's simple, it can do a lot. I really like the neck shape on this one. I'm actually happy I currently have a band to use it with. I think I use it for most of the songs, but that's also because our other guitar player is using a Telecaster a lot of the time, which leads me to my next guitar. I used to have this Squier that was made by Squier. It was a Classic Vibe. I upgraded the pickup on that and the wiring harness. And I really liked that guitar, but I didn't like the neck shape. You know, the Squiers have really thin necks, and I like a bit of a chunkier neck, especially on something like an Squier or a Telecaster. And I was thinking about upgrading that more, but while I was looking at the guitar and thinking about what I wanted to upgrade, it basically meant making a new guitar. So at one point I thought, why not? Why not trying to make a parts caster? So I took the wiring harness and the pickup out of that guitar, as well as the compensated saddles I had on that, which are also by ABM. And I decided to make my first parts caster. So I got a Fender neck, an MJT body. I think the rest of the parts are mostly Fender road worn. And I assembled my first parts caster, which will be in a video shortly. I already did that in September, and I finished the guitar in October somewhere, I think. This guitar is exactly what I would want out of an Squier without having to acquire a custom shop, because currently that would be too expensive for me, and it would be really hard to find exactly what I want out of an Squier if I was looking at the custom shop. And if I make it myself, I can make it exactly how I like it. So that's just what I did. And I really have to say this guitar is awesome. I really love it. I'm really happy with it. And it's the second guitar I'm using with my new band. Once I made this guitar, I decided, well, if I can do this, I can also make the exact Telecaster that I want. So I also started that project and did basically the same thing. I got the pickups I wanted, the guitar body I wanted. I got another road worn neck. The only problem with that guitar was that the body routing wasn't as precise as it was on this guitar. Everything fit on this one without any issue. And when I was assembling my Telecaster, the neck didn't fit into the pocket. The controls didn't fit into the control cavity. And I decided I'm not gonna bother with this because I'm new to this. I got lucky the first time, and the second time I had to bring it to my luthier. And it's still there. It has been there since, I think, October. I know my luthier is a very busy man. He's got a lot of customers, and I told him, you know, there's no rush. I just want to get the guitar in the best playable shape. So that's also one of my new guitars, but I don't have it here right now. I'm still waiting for it, but I hope it turns out at least as good as this one. For my new band, I'm using a dual amp setup. It's not wet dry or anything. It's just a dual amp setup. I've got the Z-Rack Junior that I've had for a few years now and that I really love. So I'm actually happy to use that as one of the main amps in a new band. And I also got the Dr. Z Nova, which is more of a tweed thing. And they complement each other really well. I've also made a video of that dual amp setup, so that will also be something that you can see somewhere in the upcoming weeks or months. And those are also two new cabs. I used to have the 2x12 Zilla cabinet that I had in the background for all the time that I've had this YouTube channel, but I actually sold it to my bandmate in that same band. Because for my current situation, two 1x12 cabinets make more sense, and I've had the two of those made especially for those amps. And my guitar playing buddy in my new band, he actually wanted the exact cab that I was having. He tried mine, and once he tried mine, he wanted one that sounded exactly the same and looked exactly the same. So I said, why don't you buy mine? Because I think I'm getting two new ones. So that's gonna make a difference in my background. And I actually love that Zilla cabinet. It's a great cabinet, but it didn't make sense for me anymore at this moment. So that's why I went with the new configuration. Also something that's lurking in the background at the moment and in my last video is that amp. That's actually a Dr. Z Z28 Mark II combo. I talked about that amp when I made my Dr. Z Nova video, and at the end of that I said that I was thinking about selling my Marshall Studio JTM combo to get one of these, and I actually did that, and I'm happy I did that, but I still have to make a video on it. I still have to spend some more time with it because I just got it last week and I've been sick for more than a week, so I didn't get a lot of time to play with it. But as far as I can tell right now, I'm really happy with my choice, and like everything Dr. Z is awesome. My main board that I'm using for both bands actually didn't change a lot this year. I think the only thing that has changed is that I've taken the Wampler bell off, which I was actually using for my Telecasters and open tuning, which I don't have anymore, so I didn't have a use for that pedal anymore. Something I did have a use for was something octavy in a small format. So I went with the Mythos Argonaut because it's only the octave. I was using a Warm Audio Foxy tone box, which isn't really pedalboard friendly, so I always had that in front of my pedalboard, and this is an easier solution and it sounds at least as good. I'm really happy with that pedal, and I'm really happy with the solution. Since I have been using an octave fuzz on a lot of songs on the new Nighthawker album, I needed a solution instead of bringing the separate fuzz pedal to put in front of my board, and this really works well. I also still have my smaller Helix board or studio board or session board, whatever you want to call it. I think a few things have changed. I'm not actually sure what I did when. It's got a DI at the bottom, so I have a preset in the Helix for when I'm playing acoustic, which goes to the DI, which is pretty convenient because I don't have to change anything. I can just plug my acoustic guitar in the same way that I would plug my electric guitar in. Besides that, I just have a tuner, a boost, and a few drive pedals, and the rest comes from the Helix. So I've got a few different presets in there, but my standard preset is my Nighthawker preset, which is pretty similar to my main board. And this year I also made a smaller board. That's the one sitting on the combo over there, and they actually go hand in hand. So that's something I can use in the living room if I play smaller shows where it's too small to bring a bigger amp. So this setup is basically for everything if I don't want to bring too much. It just has a tuner, a JDM Electrica fuzz, which I also did a video on a while ago. It has the MXR Timmy, which I really like. The Idiot Box Effect Power Drive, which is like the TrueFi color driver that I have on my big board. It's a similar circuit and I use it for solo boost. I recently got the Walrus Julia, which so far I really like. I wanted to try something different. I had the version 1 of the Jam Pedals Harmonious Monk on there, which is a great pedal, but it's not my kind of tremolo. It was too throbby for me. So I wanted to try something different, and that's what I went with. And I got the Delverb on there, which I also really like and also already did a video on. And I also got a Hughes & Kettner Rotosphere recently. I saw Warren Haynes live in June and I really loved his rotary sounds that he was having. And shortly after that, he was a guest on that pedal show and it turned out he was using the Rotosphere. So I had been looking at a lot of rotary pedals lately, but nothing sounded as good to me as that Rotosphere. But usually they go for too much money for what I wanted to spend on it. And then I saw one really cheap. So I just bought it and I'm really happy with it. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it in the long run, but for now I like to play around with it and maybe I'm gonna make a video on that as well. And lastly, I still have the Universal Audio Lion, which I have paired up with a Hotone Power amp that I use as a backup amp, but I also used it for a gig a year ago, which worked great. And I use it when I'm too lazy to mic up any of my cabinets when I'm recording a video here.
Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Remember the good times that we had. Let them slip away from us when things got bad. I saw you smiling in the sun.
So that's my gear at the start of this year, and this year I don't actually want to go into flipping as much gear as I did last year, which is difficult if you have a YouTube channel, but I really want to focus on just making music this year. So I hope there will be less guitars, less amps, maybe a few more pedals because I don't do that a lot. But we'll see. I actually still have a guitar on the way to me at the moment, but it got lost in the mail, so I hope it will still arrive someday soon. But we'll see. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And while you're down there, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and I'll see you next time.